In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Oh, hell no!
Well, I saw this man, he put the goat on the table, he skinned it, took the skin off, laid the pelt down, and they had 2 other sheep that they were preparing for sacrifice. And there was this woman that was coming out and ordering, like in a sequence, 2 chickens, 2 guineas, 2 ducks, so on.
Does this disturb you?
No, it doesn't disturb me. It doesn't bother me at all, really.
Last night was the first time that it was actually caught in the act of the individuals going through the process of actually killing these animals. In the past, we just found the remains of animals scattered throughout the county, southwest of the county, north, Dade, and northeast. So it's all over the county. But last night was the first night that someone was actually physically caught in the act.
Earlier this month, a number of goats, chickens, and pigeons were found sacrificed in southwest Dade County. Police say it's a ritual performed by a cult known as Santeria. An investigator with the Humane Society has come in from Washington to question religious leaders and others to see what can be done to stop the sacrifices.
And everyone seems to believe that this is very much on the increase. The number of shops selling religious Santeria articles has mushroomed in recent years. And it appears as though the number of adherents to this religion has increased dramatically.
The problem that we face is that the Florida statute relating to cruelty to animals contains an exception that permits slaughtering of animals for religious rituals. They say that this is necessary in order to protect freedom of religion for those religious cults that believe in the slaughter of animals.
These animals are being sold for sacrificial purposes by persons associated with the Santeria cult, which claims to have 10,000 worshippers in Dade County. Members of the cult say their rituals are governed only by their gods, but investigators say their rites must also be governed by the laws of Florida. Bob Kaplitz for CBS News, Miami.
Priests and spiritualists gathered in South Florida today. They were looking for a better understanding of African culture and religion. The aim to achieve mainstream acceptance of practices that some might view as, well, extreme. CBS 4's Gary Nelson has this report that we must warn you contains scenes of animal sacrifice.
This is an event
But at Florida International University today, it was the stuff of academia, a conference on African culture and religion that is infused in South Florida.
So many Cuban Santeria here, Haitian voodoo specialists. We want to use those knowledge and incorporate them, mainstream them into our academic curriculum.
Mainstream them?
Mainstream.
Voodoo?
Mainstream them, because they do contain important knowledge systems.
They have been on the fringe. Santerias, with animal sacrifice and the like, a practice the Supreme Court says is protected speech, barbaric to some, to devotees it is a reverent spiritual act.
There are prayers that are done to the animal. It's prayers of atonement, of expiation, of asking their permission. Unlike when you go to McDonald's or Kentucky Fried Chicken, the way that those chickens, that's slaughtered. We don't slaughter animals.
And then there is this. We have seen caskets unearthed in South Florida by nighttime visitors who have used human remains along with animal sacrifice to invoke the favor of spirits. Just another day at church, some at this conference believe.
When voodoo-like followers go into a cemetery and use the remains of humans in their worship, that's sort of like Baptists taking communion on Sunday?
Absolutely. You have the Holy Sacrament, which is reverence of the dead. You know, you to partake of the body and the blood of Christ to emulate the qualities that Christ had. So it's all the same thing.
A perspective far from the mainstream, but looking for a tolerant ear today at FIU.
And so followers of religions from the dark continent hope that through education and communication, others will come to understand the ways of spells and sacrifice of the living and the dead. For some, it's going to take a leap of faith.
In Miami, Gary Nelson, CBS 4 News.
Santeria animals that were sacrificed, turtles. This is a goat, a sheep in the back here, and a lot of chickens and roosters. Again, this is what we got. We are in a really high-profile illegal slaughter area right now, and what do we have in illegal slaughter areas? Animal abuse and abuse of the environment, and that's what we have right here. You see a few bags in this area with a few flies on it. You open it up, and this is what you get. We have a sheep here. With no head, by the way. And that's either used for Santeria or for black magic. And we have the insides of a few animals here. Either a horse, a cow, or either a horse or a cow, because there are large intestines in this bag.
In 1993, the Supreme Court of the United States heard the case Church of the Lukumi Babalu Ai, Inc. v. City of Hialeah, which challenged laws targeting religious practices and beliefs. The case centered on ordinances passed by the City of Hialeah that prohibited animal sacrifice, a key aspect of the Santeria religion. These restrictions stipulated fines or imprisonment for those found guilty of performing such sacrifices. The Santeria religion took the case to court, arguing that the ordinances violated their First Amendment right to religious freedom. The Supreme Court ultimately agreed, finding that the laws were discriminatory and not narrowly tailored to meet the government's goals of preventing animal cruelty and protecting public health. As such, the court deemed the ordinances unconstitutional and in violation of the First Amendment's Free Exercise Clause, ruling in favor of the Santeria religion.
All new for you tonight, a disturbing discovery on Miami Beach. Animal remains were found washed up and no one moved them for more than a day. CBS 4's Maggie Newland is live there tonight. Maggie, what'd you find out for us?
Cynthia, not a lot of people on Miami Beach expected a scene like this. Now, we're in the middle of a bunch of high-rise condos. Just across the water is Star Island, and today there were a headless goat and a headless chicken here. Now, a Miami Beach resident found the animals last night, and today Richard Kudo with Animal Recovery Mission came to South Beach. He says the animals were likely used in a religious ritual, which is not illegal, but he says it is illegal to dispose of the animals improperly and to handle them inhumanely.
These animals face not only torturous deaths, but from being purchased at the illegal farms where they are to the ceremony. You know, we're talking about these animals are deprived of food, water, they're hog-tied, they're placed in bags, they're transported inhumanely.
Now, Kudo says it is not unusual to find animals that are used in sacrifices in Dade County, but it is unusual to find them here on South Beach.
Being discovered today in southwest Miami-Dade.
Animal activists finding evidence of what they believe to be ritualistic sacrifice and suffering. Local 10 News reporter Christina Vasquez is live with a one and only report on what was found near Black Point Marina.
Let's start with where we are at. Most of the remains found on this stretch of Southwest 203rd Street. Now, we are at Southwest 87th Avenue. I know what you are seeing live looks remote, and maybe the address, if you're not familiar with the area, sounds remote, but guess what? We are right around the corner from the very popular Black Point Marina. In a wooded area around the corner from Black Point Marina.
It's really disgusting.
Members of ARM, Animal Recovery Mission, make a gruesome discovery.
This is probably a week old, a week and a half old.
And something unique about the 10 dogs, 2 found in just the past 2 hours.
This is a first.
Like sawed in half?
It's a very, very clean cut.
All with their lower jaws sawed in half.
It's stumping us of why all of these jaws are sawed in half of these canines. Now, this animal went through a lot of torture.
And just 1 hour ago, they make yet another find. This one, so gruesome, we can't show it to you.
It's not often you find a skinned dog, right? Yeah. With no legs and no head.
Based on the artifacts found around the animals, Richard Kudo believes there is a connection to an Afro-Caribbean religion like Santeria or Palo Mayombe.
You know, dolls, you have little Santeria statues in this area, you have shells and coconuts and everything indicating that these are Santeria ceremonies.
So what you are looking at live now, it just appears to be a common black trash bag, right? You might drive right by here and think it's litter, where a lot of those remains are found inside of those black bags. So it's unclear whether this could have been used as a dump site or whether perhaps some of these rituals, as this group believes, are performed here. A big question would be if these animals were sacrificed in the name of one of these religions. Well, is there a crime that's been committed? That's a hot topic, and we're going to explore it coming up at Local 10 at 6.
It's become a common occurrence at the Miami-Dade Justice Building. Lawyers and deputies on their way to work stumbling upon what some might find appalling.
We're talking bags and cardboard boxes full of dead animals. But as Constance Jones reports, it's not about animal cruelty, but rather religious expression.
Clothed in the darkness of night, someone leaves a plastic bag right in front of the Miami-Dade Justice Building.
I see chicken parts, I see tongues, parts like that.
A gruesome discovery. Dead, bloody animals. Similar packages have been left at the curb before. So you've seen this yourself?
Yes, several times.
Those here know it's typically not a case of animal cruelty, but an offering for religious purposes, believed to be left by a Santeria practitioner or a voodooist.
It's part of growing up in Miami. You're used to it.
As for the dozens of deputies, the judges, those who encounter these strange occurrences on a daily basis, does it even make a difference? For lawyer Albert Carantes, he says yes.
Use everything you can get your hands on and let me do the talking. I think it helps them in a way because it helps them psychologically.
Constance Jones, Local 10 News.
Sacrificial animal offerings were challenged by animal advocates back in 1993, but the U.S. Supreme Court ruled animal sacrifices are legal for religious purposes.
First at noon, a disturbing discovery in a northwest Miami-Dade field. The remains of up to 30 dead horses were found.
Elliot, this is hard to take in. The smell out here is just about overwhelming because we are quite literally surrounded by dead horses. One of them is just to my left, which we will not show you because it is too graphic. This was called to the attention of animal abuse investigators this morning. Just a warning again to viewers, you may find this disturbing. Right here, Animal cruelty investigator Rachel Taylor showing us what they found.
We found site after site after site.
This roadside in Hialeah turned dumping ground.
We found 3 legs. Every leg was stripped of the meat.
Most of it too graphic to show on camera. Dozens of horses and their parts all in various stages of decomposition.
You've got horse hooves, bones, hips. I mean, these have obviously been here for a long time.
Taylor says they were alerted to the gruesome find by a woman feeding stray dogs in this remote area, who noticed one of them gnawing on something, a horse leg. The most recent kill, she suspects, just 2 days old.
Infuriating, frustrating.
Taylor works as an investigator for the nonprofit Animal Recovery Mission, trying to stop the slaughter of animals. In a brief walk just up this road, in just hours, she says they've discovered about 20 to 30 dead horses, almost all of them next to these feed bags.
We just slushed them open, and then it was tails and hooves and skulls.
She says often killed for their meat, but evidence nearby shows some of them were likely used in ritual sacrifice, calling this one of the worst cases she's ever seen.
They're in every couple of feet. It's like this whole area is just a graveyard. That's what's alarming to me.
Robert and Irma Telemontes have both practiced Santeria for nearly 3 decades. They say they aren't cruel and they aren't criminals. They're just believers in a misunderstood religion.
We had the animals, in cages and, inside the bags, but they weren't being abused.
The Telemonteses say they were among about 30 people who were part of a ceremony for a new member. That involved blood sacrifices to santos, or saints, represented by rocks kept in containers. They cut the animals' jugulars and let them bleed out.
We're not beating animals to death. We're not chopping off legs, while they're still alive. The only one that can complain about cruelty to animals is a vegan because we're killing animals.
The group sacrificed a goat, 3 roosters, a pigeon, and some chickens, and had other animals ready. After ceremonies like this, the Telemonteses said they'd cut the sacrificed animals up to cook up and eat in a ceremonial meal. They say some of that was already happening. The mistake in their eyes wasn't the sacrifices. It was leaving the garage door open for the neighborhood to see.
If you're a nudist, you don't go nuding in your front yard.
Yeah.
Right? You keep it within your home.
There are 7 Santos involved in the ceremony, but before deputies arrived, they were only partway through, so this ceremony still needs to be completed.
We're going to complete the ceremony.
We're going to complete it.
What will you do differently this time?
Nothing.
Nothing the same.
I won't have the garage door open.
Now, the Talamanteses say they plan to fight the charges in court, and they think deputies should have been better informed about the religion. And Irma Talamantes said she plans to talk with the sheriff about that. Neither of them have any plans to stop practicing their beliefs.
The story you'll only see here on Local 10, a neighborhood in an uproar. They say animal sacrifices are happening right behind a Hollywood home, and they want it to stop now. Local 10 News reporter Ian Margol is live in Hollywood with the exclusive. Ian.
Lori, when the wind stops blowing in this neighborhood, especially in the afternoon when it gets hot, the smell is really nasty. And neighbors here say that is from rotting animal carcasses that have just been thrown away. Now, the man that lives here and is doing this, they say that is something to do with his religious practice. So the neighbors have tried to talk to him about it. They say he's not open to speaking with them about it. So now these neighbors want the city to step in.
They store the chickens here, do their thing here.
When he moved into his Hollywood home in September, Alberto Serrano started noticing his neighbor would have animals in the backyard next door. Pigs, goats, and chickens were in crates and could easily be seen through the bushes, but they quickly realized they weren't pets.
We started noticing that they were actually sacrificing these animals.
They see vans of animals coming out and they store them in the back. And then they hold them for a while until they do the performance or whatever they do.
Serrano and his landlord, Ephraim Yoshua, say the man living next door would slaughter the animals out in the open as religious sacrifices. And even if they don't see it happening, Serrano says they can certainly hear it.
Whether it's the chickens gobbling like crazy, or goats screaming, or pigs running around screaming.
When we went into Serrano's yard, we could see a man next door flipping over coolers. And earlier in the day, Yoshua showed us this video of the same man and a woman wearing gloves and shoving something into trash bags. When we tried to talk to the neighbors, no one came to the door, but the city of Hollywood and the police department tell us they're already looking into the issue. And Serrano hopes it's solved soon.
I hope this gets resolved and everybody can be at peace. Right now, all the neighbors are terrified.
Charges have been dropped against the 10 of the 11 people arrested after attending a Santeria ceremony involving animal sacrifice. According to court records, there was not enough evidence in the case. It's unclear why one person is still being charged. Back in March, 11 people charged with cruelty to livestock animals. Bexar County deputies found dead chickens, goats, and other animals in the garage of a home. At the time, a couple that was arrested said the ceremony was for a newer member of the religion, and they are not cruel people or criminals, just believers of a misunderstood religion.
The roads are dirt, the vegetation thick, uninviting. This is the western fringe of Miami, along the rim of the Everglades, a no man's land.
It's probably one of America's last frontiers where anything goes in this area.
Richard Couto has been on a crusade to shut down illegal slaughterhouses. Most places, only the driveways are visible. Tarps are strung along the fence line, hiding what goes on. On the bloody tables, knives, a machete, a sledgehammer, an axe. If you care at all about animals, this is revolting. Outside one property, hidden in the brush, animal remains.
I just came across the head of a goat. His insides. This is how they're disposing of these animals. Just throwing them basically into our wetlands.
Quote, every time we go in there, we have to go in there with the police. And even the police don't want to go in there.
A story you'll only see on Local 10 News of a disturbing discovery on Virginia Key. A man slapped with a hefty fine after an apparent animal sacrifice. Local 10's Terrell Forney is live with the exclusive. Terrell.
And people in several areas across Miami-Dade are used to seeing chickens roaming the area freely. Well, some chickens ended up dead along the Rickenbacker Causeway, and that investigation led detectives back to this Hialeah neighborhood after some people complained that it was all under mysterious circumstances.
That's weird. Tapped it with my paddle.
There's more birds in there.
Rattling.
A group of curious beachgoers are crying foul after stumbling upon boxes of what they believe to be animal carcasses.
I'm really nervous what's in here.
Miami-Dade police investigated their claims depicted on this cell phone video earlier this week, and they found birds had been killed along the Rickenbacker Causeway, and the remains left behind out in the open. An unsightly, unsanitary, and smelly scene. We've learned Danny Machado, who lives miles away in this Hialeah apartment building, is being blamed for the incident. Machado wasn't home when we stopped by, but his grandparents were, stressing to us that the charges were not for killing the animals.
No water, no food. It's okay.
Not having proper food and water, they say. And they're right. Machado was hit with 9 citations of animal cruelty for improper confinement of chickens without food and water. Machado told cops he was sacrificing the animals, exercising his religious freedom, so the hands of detectives were tied.
There's a bunch of other boxes that aren't moving.
But thanks to this video and that group of witnesses, police were able to prove their case that dumping carcasses and live chickens in public parks is illegal. So no word on where he got those chickens, but Machado, who is 37 years old, was not arrested, but he was hit with fines that total about $7,500. In the meantime, we know that this is the latest in a string of incidents, and people, at least the Miami-Dade Police Department's illegal dumping unit, holding people accountable for various acts. A string of cases that they say that they will continue to do and hold people accountable in the days and months to come. We are live in Hialeah tonight. I'm Terrell Fournette, Local 10 News.
Breaking news out of Southwest Miami-Dade. Police there tell us they're investigating a horse slaughter.
Let's get right out to CBS News Miami's Yvonne Taylor. He joins us live from the scene with more. So, Yvonne, what have you learned?
The 2 horses were slaughtered alive, Elliot and Naja. And actually, Miami-Dade police is classifying this as a grotesque case of animal cruelty. Exactly, animal cruelty, because they say that they found them in pieces here in this area. But first, let's take you to some video that shows the area where, according to investigators, the horses were taken. And you can see that over there right now. It's police say the subjects went through the branches in the neighborhood and cut the fence of the house where the horses were located. And that's Southwest 206th Avenue and 168th Street in Miami-Dade. They allegedly took them out of here and went across the street where the horses were slaughtered.